Hello, and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 159. I am your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
And we also have two special guests with us from Apollo City Comics once again, who is also the co-host on Sutro Sidetalk, Brandon, with the blocks of dwarf.
I was like, do I start talking now?
Yeah, I just wanted to do that.
Hello, I'm back. I haven't been on Sutro in a while. I'm excited to talk about some nerdy stuff. Hello. Hi.
And literally from across the Bifrost,
Right.
Ryan, what is up, man?
I am super excited to hang out with you guys again. This is but there's a lot to talk about today that I'm excited for all of it. So I am stoked to be here, and let's talk about some good stuff.
Yes.
I am just excited to see Ryan's face.
Well, that's your standards are super low then, because
if you
it's
want
the only face I've got, but it's not the best one I could bring. So
there's like a closet, and it's just like, this is my good face.
Like,
it's like, dude, that's not even the same person.
Just like
Man arrested for cutting faces, not just
already off that rail.
But if you want a similar dynamic to this, you could check out one of the latest Sutro Sidewatch episodes. I think it's 33. Not James, but Ty is on, and we talk about the Lord of the Rings animated film.
Oh boy.
It is.
Yeah.
It's your time for you, Mr. Frodo. Which
Mr. Frodo.
But yeah, it's today though. We're not doing that today. We're talking about some stuff that we saw at Comic-Con, and then afterwards more stuff related to that, which of course is the biggest brand we always love, Nickelodeon. We're talking about a lot of Nickelodeon stuff. There's a SpongeBob crossover I think that's happening. It's gonna be fantastic, but actually it's Marvel time. We are talking the Thor Love and Thunder movie, and if we do have time after that, Miss Marvel. Yeah, and then news, San Diego Comic-Con news. We have a quick talk on the D&D trailer, the Rings of Power trailer, not the House of the Dragon trailer. George R. R. Martin, where's my fucking book? And then all that Marvel stuff we saw. What is that? The Similarion? Oh man, that's a time, guys. That's a time. I don't know if that show's actually going to be like that. But why do you have two of the same book? Are you reading those simultaneously?
I will explain.
Okay.
Go on.
But then we got some Marvel talk on the quickly She-Hulk trailer, the Wakanda Forever trailer, which see some blue people, and then you got the Phase 5, Phase 6 kind of Phase 6 stuff that we'll briefly go over.
A lot of shit.
Yeah, and of course we'll have timers on that.
But movie titles they announced.
What's wild is that they said that's not even the big announcements yet, that the big announcements are coming for D3.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Don't know, D23 is like the big Disney convention, where most of the stuff is there except probably Star Wars, which is at Star Wars Celebration, because Disney's just everywhere now.
Wild.
Yeah, they can't escape them. They're literally kind of, there's a tube and it's just going through. They're like consume.
The Jehovah's Witnesses. They come at your door, and you're just like, you can't run from them. Like, you go to your back door, and there's more back there, and they're just waiting.
That's like Disney news.
There's probably not a single time in the year at this point that there's not a Disney movie of some sort in theaters.
I feel like it's that meme where it shows like the "Hey honey, time for your whatever," and it's like that really tired looking guy that's like, "Yes, dear, time to do the thing." That's kind of how I am now with every single Disney property.
Wonder if there's like a Disney movie like almost once a month out now at this point.
There is.
Yeah,
there's more than one.
Like if you combine Disney Plus and theaters, then probably
combines Marvel, Star Wars, live action Disney,
and they're just animated movies. They keep putting out one every once in a while.
Pixar, Disney animation, like all that stuff.
I've actually said it before. The whole thing is just they want you to think about them 24/7. Quality does not matter, because the minute one thing ends, you don't have time to really critique it, because the next thing starts and you're on to the next thing.
Do you think porn or Disney has like equal or equivalent watch hours at this point?
Oh man, I think it'd be hard to beat porn, honestly.
Well,
but if anyone could do it, Disney.
If anyone has a chance, a running chance, like
adults are on both, but Disney has kids too, so
that's true. That's true.
And they'll rewatch shit like no tomorrow, so it's hard to say.
Speaking as a father of two kids, I've seen every Pixar movie at least a dozen times, and Yeah, it's constant. It's endless.
I really hope it was mainly The Bug's Life. If it's
Kind
not,
of
I don't know what I'm doing.
equivalent to like my porn watching at this point. Like it has to be like, yeah, all right, that makes sense. I can see
Yeah.
the ratio. I want to see some numbers at this point.
All right, but let's dig right into the news, James, if you can.
Yeah.
5-minute timer, this bastard.
Can
We're
do.
gonna start with the Dungeons and Dragons fabled not podcast trailer that we got with Chris Pine and was it Hugh Grant? I think
Yeah, Hugh
is the
Grant's in it,
villain.
yeah.
But how did everyone feel about that trailer? I kind of was like,
Am I crazy? Because I've never been into D&D. I've kind of been interested in trying it out, but this trailer didn't do it for me. I also wasn't expecting there to be another Dungeons and Dragons movie out of nowhere.
True. Yeah. I didn't even watch the trailer, to be honest. Like I didn't.
you miss anything?
Stuff like that, like the D&D side things, kind of just I feel like are distractions, and they're just. I mean, D&D is so unique. I used to play D&D like every Saturday with a bunch of friends, and it just like it's just not the same when you put it in a different environment. Sometimes when it gets too I don't know how to say it, like franchised out, or like, I mean, in video games, it might be able to work a little bit, but like on screen, I just don't think it's a story that can be told in 2 hours, like it just doesn't make sense to me. And Hugh Grant was just, all I saw was that he said it was like Monty Python. And I was like, all right, well, I guess that's the tone you guys are going for.
In his interview, people said in his interviews, he looks like he does not give two shits about this
Like
movie.
Monty Python? I did not get that tone from the trailer at
No.
all.
Contrast.
No.
Yeah. So
Well,
what about you, Ryan?
So here's the thing. I enjoy Chris Pine. I enjoy Michelle Rodriguez. I enjoy like old school Hugh Grant. And there's another actor in here who you guys might be familiar with if you've heard of the show Bridgerton. The guy from the first season, Regé Jean Page, is like one of the hottest names in Hollywood right now. He's the real glamorous, knight looking guy next
I've
to
only
Chris
seen
Pine.
him in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and he screams very.
That guy.
That's Justice Smith. Justice Smith was the guy from Jurassic World and from Detective Pikachu.
Yep.
But Regé Jean Page is he's in the casting of the thieves. And what I really think was about this movie is that, like, of course they're not doing all of Dungeons and Dragons. That's impossible. You can't do it. And also, like, so what they're doing is they're obviously isolating a story in the Dungeons and Dragons world. So if you approach it that way, as like a fantasy movie that is going to try and like cut off a slice of D&D, because I've played D&D before. I love D&D. And I agree with what Brandon said. Like, it's a form of entertainment that's really hard to do in other mediums. I think a lot of times that's what like comic books are. Like when people get all pissy and angry about how comic books are adapted, it's like, well, yeah, the medium is different, so they have to adapt it differently. Like I just, I'm excited to go see a cool fantasy movie. Like I love anything like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. I love any of that stuff. So like I'm gonna go and have a good time, and I'm not really looking for it to be the perfect adaptation of Dungeons and Dragons, because that's kind of an impossible thing to do.
That's kind of like exactly how I feel about Marvel movies. Like,
it's
just a T, you know what I mean? Yeah.
When you cross mediums, you have to change your expectations. So I think it'll be perfectly a perfectly adequate action movie.
Yeah, I think what weirds me out about a D&D movie specifically is like I said, I haven't played D&D myself, but it seems like most of the fun is like you are the one deciding what happens, and you roll the dice to see if it happens or not. And like there's some
choose your own adventure, yeah,
and there's some excitement to that. You don't get that out of a movie. You can still get a good story out of a movie, and it might be a fun movie, but it just kind of defeats the purpose of Dungeons and Dragons specifically.
You got to role play while you're filming it. You got to have the dice out. You got to be improving it all.
One of my friends, actually, I think it was Ty, we were talking about it, and he actually said it would have been a lot more interesting if you see them on an adventure like this, and then the camera changes and it goes to the guys at the table, and they're and it's just an adventure like that, and that's literally what happens. And it's cool. A bunch of kids that are like, oh fucking, that's a good idea. Just do something like that. I think that would have been a lot better. I will say though, at least the designs they have for a lot of the creatures and whatnot seem accurate to the books.
Oh yeah,
to the rule books and whatnot.
They even
So
got an
that
owl
at least,
bear.
the owl bear. Yep.
yeah, they were at least trying in those sense, but it just, I think it's more of the way the characters are going about felt like it's a completely different genre. Like, so I think one of my friends even said like, oh yeah, it's like D&D Marvel, and I was like, what? Oh, okay, but I don't know, we'll see. At least, like I said, designs, but I think there are better concepts to go about for it. All right, Rings of Power reception.
Hyped.
So
So hyped.
I'm very, I don't know. I've
I'm
been
hyped.
worried about this. I think this is the show I've been most worried about, especially after the first trailer. I was like, the fuck is
Yeah.
this? But
Why? I'm curious. Like,
Yeah.
what casts doubt about it? Like, I'm genuinely curious about that.
you know, I've also read the Silmarillion. I remember reading it before all this shit, way before this was even announced. So it wasn't even like I was reading it for this. I read it because I wanted to read it. And like the way they're going about it, I don't know when it's supposed to take place at this point. The way they're talking, they're like, listen, you have Harfoots, which are the proto hobbits, and you know, the first Balrogs and orcs. And I'm like, dude, so we're doing Morgoth? No, it's Sauron with the rings of power, and he's forging them. And I'm like, those are two completely opposite ends of a second age timeline there. So
yeah, it's
what
supposed
exactly?
to be Morgoth, like, and those who don't know, Melkor was the first incarnation of this character, and then he turned into Morgoth.
Yeah.
But I found this out like a few days ago. But they don't, the rights to a lot of the Silmarillion and Lord of the Rings aren't there, so they're just kind of they're kind of working with what they can get rights to.
So they're folding it into it. Okay, yeah,
They're trying to take liberties where they can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big reason why they can't do the first age of Middle Earth is because for some reason all those Melkor, Valier, all that type of stuff,
like, all that, you know,
that's all tied up. So they're doing the second age, which leads into the third age, of course, that we're all familiar with. But I don't know. I think for what we're seeing and for what they're able to work with, I think it'll be fun and interesting. My biggest concern was, but you know, after hearing interviews and seeing how much work went into every episode, script wise and storytelling wise, my biggest concern was like visually, it's fucking beautiful, but like, can the story hold up to that as well? But
yeah,
I'll find out. So
the thing that I came away from the trailer with thinking the most was, how are people that loved the original trilogy of movies, the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies, how are they gonna like take this? Because anybody that's read Lord of the Rings knows those movies are not sentence for sentence, shot for shot.
Oh, not at all.
But they are amazing movies.
Yes.
So like, that's where it's that whole thing of adaptations. Like, is this going to be a perfect adaptation of the second age of the Silmarillion or whatever? Probably not. But like, if you judge it on its own merits, will it fulfill the Tolkien Middle Earth vibe? I think the Middle Earth vibe is clearly already there. Like, it's like Brandon said, the visuals. It gave me the feels that I did when I was in the theater watching Peter Jackson's movies.
They did get Howard Shore to do music again, which
which is a little bit of a bummer, because he, like, when I hear Lord of the Rings, I think Howard Shore and his scores and all those iconic pieces of music.
Yeah, so at least, you know, he's back. But I think for me, it's because, well, one, I'm like very skeptical because it's Amazon. But two, I think one of the things that made me realize I'm like, this isn't fully love, is it? Is you know, season one, I'm like, oh my God, they're going back to New Zealand to film. Like, they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And then they announced like, oh, well, we're gonna do everything in Britain now for Prime in general. We're just not gonna do anything on locations anymore. So season two won't be in New Zealand. It's just gonna be in some fucking studio in the UK or something like that.
Amazon's hasn't really disappointed. Like, I love The Boys, I love Invincible. Fleabag is a fucking phenomenal show. Like, I don't know, I feel like Amazon is pretty hot with some of their shows.
Oh, they definitely are.
Yeah,
I think it's just the Amazon name. I'm like, it's still Amazon. Like, I'm like, there's always a catch.
The
like,
only place I can watch Columbo though, so
there you go. Yes. How are the new episodes?
Oh, they're phenomenal.
Oh, good.
I'm on 79 right now.
Great. But we'll move on from there. A bunch of Marvel news. Timer for this one, just 10 minutes. We'll throw it all in. But quickly run over the She-Hulk trailer. What'd you guys think about that whole thing? There was training montages. She's defending Abomination. We see a certain man jumping on a rooftop.
I'm confused why the Abomination can like change form like at will, because I thought that was a thing he couldn't do, and I thought the cell he was in was like dampening whatever his like transformation was, but he's just straight up goes like, I'm Abomination now. I was like, oh,
I guess it's more contained.
okay.
I mean, he has been training with Wong, so maybe Wong's taught him how to hone his skills.
Maybe that's true. And I don't know. I find it kind of funny that like She-Hulk is able to just like do everything that Bruce took like years to figure out how to do, and he's like all jealous about it. I guess I don't know. That'll be interesting.
I don't know anything about She-Hulk. I've never given a fuck about She-Hulk. Honestly, I just thought it was a goofy character that I just never thought I'd get into. But you know, if someone says, "Hey, go read this run of She-Hulk, this like 6-issue miniseries," I think Dan Slott did a really good of She-Hulk series that I heard about. I might try to check that out. I'm sure it's on Marvel Unlimited.
Yep.
I only really got excited because I saw a yellow Daredevil suit, and that's what I really love.
Yeah, that was kind of neat.
You in that yellow Daredevil suit, my
It's a good
God.
time.
Yellow suit. Love the
It's a good
yellow
time.
suit. But I mean, I'm gonna watch it because it's. I mean, I watch all this crap.
Yeah. The way I've been describing like all the Marvel stuff recently is like I kind of have to watch it because it's like everything, every movie, every show is like just the next episode of the Marvel show now. Like they're not really individual things anymore, even if they ever were. But like there was definitely a time where like you could enjoy the movies individually, but now it's just like it's all connected. Even What If, when they first announced What If, I was like, oh cool, finally just an anthology series of just unrelated stories that I can enjoy for just what they are. And
It's
then at
only
end,
the
it was
MCU.
like it's all connected, it's multiverse stuff, this is a very important stuff. It's like, so not even the anthology stuff gets spared. But
Yeah,
I don't know, it's a little bit of a tangent, but
I can agree with that 100% though.
I do
yeah,
like really fast how you guys were like, yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I have to watch it.
That's the thing. It's like
I want to watch it.
and it's like I'll probably enjoy it, but there is definitely at this point a bit more of that like, but I also gotta watch it than I would like. But it's still like it still looks fun. I'll probably still enjoy it at least.
The CGI just doesn't sell me still.
Yeah, also that I don't know.
If you want a good run of She-Hulk stuff that clearly looks like it's going to be in here, like that Dan Slott run of She-Hulk is a high recommendation. What Rainbow Rowell is doing right now with She-Hulk is awesome, but really
that's the new book that just came out, right?
yeah, this Rainbow started that I believe earlier this year. But really this is sensational She-Hulk. This is the 80s. This is her, like she was breaking the fourth wall before Deadpool was a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh, I did notice they had one of
thing-
those in the trailer.
The thing about She-Hulk is, see, what I can't wait, and a little bit of a soapbox here thing is, what I can't wait is for this show to try and make you laugh, and people being like, "Oh, it's too fucking funny." That's what She-Hulk is.
Okay.
Like, and all the clickety clack comic book guys will be like, "Well, it's not blank. It's not blank." Yeah, it's a Disney Plus show. Like, they are. Again, I'm going to harp on this. It's the adaptation of a comic that has a definite tone. So she's going to break the fourth wall. She's gonna make you laugh. She's gonna, like, I'm sorry guys, she's gonna make you chuckle a few times. And her relationship with Bruce is what I'm most interested in this, because we know who Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner is. We know who the kind of the Professor Hulk vibe of that is. And I love that he's like almost her trainer. I love that he's training her how to become a Hulk. And I'm really excited for just all the fun little things, like Frogman is in there. Titania is in there. I mean, Jamila Jamil is going to do an awesome job as Titania. And then there's that devil guy that's going to show up.
Oh yes.
I think
I hear he's a really good lawyer.
He's
Evil
going to be
Knievel.
born again at some point.
I think
It's going to be
Knievel.
good. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think okay. So I just looked it up on Marvel Unlimited. You can find Sensational She-Hulk the 80s to 94 run, and then I got Dan Slott's and then the current run on there. So I'm gonna check them out.
Yeah, you can find those books on DC Infinite. I think that's what it's called. Yeah, just check it out there for sure. Good times. Yeah.
Someone's gonna actually go do that.
I know. Good.
Kamran said I could find She-Hulk on DC Infinite. I'm pissed.
See the comments blow up.
Batman shakes his head at you in disappointment for falling for another trick. Oh man, yeah. we'll see how it is. I'm skeptical, but I'm at this point just skeptical about everything. I'm just
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah.
oh,
Really only enjoyed 2 Marvel shows so far. So I mean, whatever helps break that curse.
yeah. And then Wakanda.
I don't know why, but
Yes.
it makes me kind of think of that scene from Indiana Jones 4 where the Russian lady was like getting all the knowledge of the universe beamed into her head, and she's just like, no, it's too much. Stop.
Are you saying it's like a metaphor for oversaturation?
Maybe a little.
Oh, but yeah, Wakanda Forever. We got a trailer for it because it's coming out in November. It's very obscure in certain portions, and then at other portions, they're like, "Look, of all of the sea people, which are very Mexican sea people." And I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, it's underwater Mexican."
I don't know why. I
Like,
just, for some reason, I never thought Marvel would actually bother to put Namor in the MCU. I don't know why.
I wasn't sure how they would do it. I wasn't sure like when or how or like why at a certain point. But it's gonna be kind of funny seeing if we do see a setup between Sue Storm and
that'd
Yeah.
be cool.
So it's funny, like before the Eternals came out, I was hearing rumors that maybe we could see the Atlanteans first in that, because there was apparently at some point in Marvel history a war between the Atlanteans and the Deviant City.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
like,
Oh yeah.
so there could have been that, and they just didn't, and they didn't
They
do
even
any
go
of the,
underwater at one point, right?
Yeah.
If I remember.
yeah,
correctly.
they didn't do any
remember
of the
that. The movie
really
was so
really
boring.
interesting things that they could have done with the Eternals apparently, but
Any
it's
of
just really weird that now we start to see the Atlanteans and Namor in Black Panther 2.
Yeah, I mean, the
Wakanda Forever.
expectation is probably very predictable, where it's going to be certain secret organization or small time thing has set two of the most powerful civilizations in the world against each other
Yeah.
into war.
I guessed last night while we were playing Hunt that maybe that could be their first like hint at Secret Wars, although they literally said there's like a Secret Wars movie coming.
Not secret. Didn't you say it was
A Secret Invasion? Sorry,
Secret Invasion. Yeah, with the scrolls.
Because like, yeah, what if the scroll, there is like a section of the scrolls that are like, yeah, no, we don't want to work with humans, we just want a new home. Like, and they just maybe set a war going against like two of the most technologically advanced parts of Earth, and just like, let's see what happens.
Green Man turns into Blue Man, attacks other man.
Man,
Yeah.
that's how they could. That's
The headline there. That's the
Yeah.
attention grabbing headline.
Just
That's how they
and
could clear out T'Challa, like him being a scroll and him just being taken away a long time
Oh,
ago.
that would be
And that's
interesting.
how they find out. You know what I mean? That's how you get rid of him as a character.
that would have been interesting.
Or they're gonna open some multiverse stuff, and then they're gonna be like doing the whole chasing a ghost thing through the multiverse to try to find T'Challa or something. Not you.
Yeah.
Not you. Go away.
Oh, the cat.
Stay where
my
you're
cat
at.
was like, "What's
I just-
up?"
I think it'll be pretty much like, I think this was the plot before everything occurred. Like, I think this is going to happen either way with all the Atlantis stuff. Like, I think this was always in the works to happen. Personally, the reason I said like, I don't know what Mexicans, because I'm like Mexican, I could see all the Aztec
Yeah.
Mayan shit, and I got really excited.
But
for
yeah.
that.
Yeah, same.
that's
The
why I'm really
headdresses
pumped.
and everything.
Dude,
So
Home Slice Namor, like he went on stage on during the panel, and he was like saying, he's like, I'm from the hood. Like the fact that diversity is a thing, and that's what makes this possible for me, and that's what makes it possible for kids that are growing up. And I thought it was a great little speech. Absolute Collectibles, if you guys look up that Instagram account, or I posted on the Apollo feed at some point if you guys want to dig that up. But that whole little thing was really cool and really touching in a sense. I'm really happy that we did get like a Mexican. Plus, I mean, they try to cross the river all the time to get to the U.S. It has to be, like I'm from
Wow.
El Paso. I can
Wow.
say that. I'm from El
You
Paso.
can take the boy out of El Paso, but you can't take the El Paso out of the boy.
I just
There
like,
you
I don't
go.
know why, but I love the thing that made me like rewind the trailer for a second to be like, was that Namor? The guy had pointy ears, and I was just like, there's only so many people in Marvel with pointy ears.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's also Captain Britain's wife. I believe she also has pointy ears.
Could have been Green Goblin with pink makeup on. I don't know.
That is true. Yeah. She Green Goblin.
Oh,
Fuck
man.
you, Peter.
AKA Willem Dafoe, just on a normal day.
That's
Well, we
fucking
That
all
man
have-
is literally like one of the most terrifying people. Like I would never want to run into
Yeah,
him.
it's great.
It's like a dark alley. I feel like,
Yeah.
There's more
oh,
of a
Mr.
scare
Defoe,
than
I'm going the other
excitement.
way.
It'll definitely be interesting though how they do figure out the whole, I guess, replacement process and whatnot. Like, I mean, everyone, I assume it's Shuri. I don't know if everyone else assumes it's gonna be Shuri, but
I would say probably, because like she's already messed around with like building her own tech before and stuff like that. She literally made the newer
suits.
suits in like
Yeah.
the first movie. She's
So,
like, hey, you tired of like having to put your suit on every time? Store it in a necklace. I got you.
yeah, very true.
They're called sneakers.
Yeah, I love
What are
that.
those? Yeah, that was great.
Oh,
What are
man.
those?
And then, you know, we saw phase 5 and kind of phase 6. Phase 5 was pretty much, what was it? Ant-Man.
There's a lot of stuff in phase 5.
Yeah, I actually had it all down. I already
and-
forgot where I put it.
It's pretty much everything that was already announced. Like we've all known phase 5 for about a year or two, you know, Secret Invasion.
Well,
yeah.
did we know Daredevil was getting
No.
a Disney Plus show though?
Yes, we
Yes.
knew Daredevil was getting a Disney Plus show. From what it sounded like, someone said it was going to be
Yeah.
like 6 episodes again. And, you know, I was like, oh, yeah, because
Mm.
that format works at all. You know, fucking, it's probably one of the worst formats I think I've ever seen. But it's just like,
It's
this
good
is
for
probably
introductory characters. I will say it's good for just like, all right, we're gonna set up
It's like a
character and
primer.
then- yeah,
it's like a primer
yeah.
lacking substance, kind of. But
I guess
it just
that
kind of falls down after a second.
that could come
um,
back if we had time to talk about Miss Marvel, because one of the things we
Yeah.
were talking about when the show ended was like the 6 episode thing doesn't seem like it gives enough time to get like a full, like introduce all your characters, get a full arc going, and it feels very
Mhm.
rushed by the end.
It was very
Generally.
rushed, yeah.
Moon Knight.
But yeah, Moon Knight. That's why I already forgot Moon Knight. I forgot that show.
Well, then because
Completely.
Disney's like next thing, you gotta keep your subscription
Exactly.
going.
That's why it's quality. It's lacking.
Mhm.
But Daredevil's 18 episodes for this new show, which I thought was insanity. I was like, oh shit, are they finally figuring it out?
Wow.
Did they finally get it?
Dump that
Um,
red juice all over me. I'm so hyped.
Yeah, real fast. Quantum Mania, Secret Invasion, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Echo, Loki Season 2, The Marvels, Blade, Ironheart, Agatha, Daredevil, Captain America, New World Order.
Everything that
Um,
was revealed a year ago, basically. They just kind
Yes,
of gave us a
pretty much.
sequential order and some dates to aim for. You know what I mean?
I guess what's the
Um,
one thing, just to make it easy and not go through all of them, but what's the one thing each of you want in very
Daredevil.
short?
I want Daredevil. That's
Okay.
like-
James?
Yeah. I don't know why, but like of all the things on that list that popped out to me is like I'm most curious about is the Agatha series.
I
I don't know
feel
why. I'm just like, how do you make? I guess you could make an entire series off of that character, but like, I wasn't expecting that.
yeah.
I mean, we're already going to talk about a witch in the movie, so. But
And then like other than that,
I understand that
probably
reference.
Quantumania
Yeah.
is just
same.
like just because I love the Ant-Man movies so far. Like they've both been so fun.
Sorry, guys. Little hiccup there for a second. Computer doesn't like me. But all right. Who are we on? James, Ryan?
Ryan.
Yes.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm excited for just about everything, because like I feel like I'm the like token optimist on this
You
panel.
are, I love it. I love it.
but I really want to see what becomes of Sam Wilson as Captain America, because like that was a comic book run that I was so invested in. Like
Oh, really?
I loved Sam Wilson as Captain America. Like I was all about the all new, all different Marvel Now era, like the
Oh.
Jane Foster being Thor.
Oh,
you know,
they
Miles-
replaced. Yeah, they replaced like every hero, right?
Well, yes, in a way. So yeah, Sam Wilson as Captain America is the thing I'm most excited about, because I just I'm invested in that story. I like Sam Wilson as a character. I think Anthony Mackie is going to do an amazing job as is this
guy's
next
great, yeah.
generation
Oh, yeah.
of Captain America. And like just little things like who's going to be the villain in that, because so many Captain America villains haven't really even been touched yet, and the whole Captain America mythos is like next to Thor, Captain America is my guy. So I really want to see what happens there, and maybe Joaquin Torres becomes the new Falcon. That'd be awesome. Just there's a lot of different cool things that could happen there, and yeah, that's the one though, outside of Thor related stuff.
Can you recommend like a era of Sam Wilson or like a run or something? Is it the 2015 to 2017 run?
Yeah, it would be that one, because that's really the bulk of when he was Captain America. But now recently there's a new run of Captain America Sam Wilson stories where like Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson are Captain America at the same time right now.
The United
think-
States of Captain America?
No, it's called Captain America: Symbol of Truth. Is the Sam Wilson series, and the Steve Rogers series is Captain America: Sentinel of Liberty.
Oh, okay. I've seen the covers for that. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
I think the guy writing Sam Wilson story is Tochi Ananobi,
Yeah.
who he wrote Black Panther for a while. But yeah, I mean it's gonna be good stuff, and I'm excited for New World Order just so I can make all the '90s wrestling references while I'm watching it.
Hold on. So it's just gonna be a lot of Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's what I like to hear.
That's what
Okay.
I want to see.
Yeah, that's all I want. I'll take it from here, nurse.
Nice. I'll check out some of these. I'm curious. I mean, just so I have some like backlog stuff to look into. Yeah.
You need a back. You don't have a backlog. We don't have backlogs here. It's not something that's real. I'm not behind 6 weeks on comics. I'm just current issues. But for me, it's Blade. For sure, Blade.
Nice.
I've been wanting this for a while. I'm literally every single time when they first announced it, they announced another movie after or that's taking place before it. I'm like, I don't care. Just give me, this is all I really want is this Mahershala Ali is Blade, and the fact that also Kit Harington is going to be in it as Black Knight. I'm like, this is all I really want. I just need 2 guys with swords killing vampires and shit. I'm fine. That's really as simple as it needs to be. Because then I'm like, it's its own thing, just like Shang-Chi. I'm like, yes, this is perfect. Thank you.
Mahershala Ali is going to do an amazing job.
Oh, very much so.
I mean,
Like
he's an award-winning actor, and he can just do.
He can do anything. He carried Luke Cage. He carried Luke Cage until he died, and then it was like, fuck, this show's not as good.
Like
he dies at a weird point in that show too.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
You were
when
like,
they announced that he was gonna play Blade, I was just like, oh my god, that's so fucking perfect.
yeah.
Right.
I literally said no one but Wesley Snipes, and then they're like, the one man that actually could besides Wesley Snipes.
I love how Wesley Snipes came out and was like, yeah, I absolutely trust Marsha to get this right.
I'm like, we all pretty much do at this point. Yeah, no, it'll be funny if they do Blade and Luke Cage now. That'll be ironically hilarious. But all right,
need to do a reference between the two.
Some motherfuckers are always ice skating uphill.
Really fast. Phase 6. They just showed Fantastic Four at the beginning, ending with like Avengers, King Dynasty, and Secret Wars, which I'm like, okay, that's what I expected more or less.
All cool. Like phase 6, just I want to get to phase 6 already. Like it's just one of those things. Like I want to see what type of Secret War they're doing. I love the fucking Fantastic Four so much, and I'm King Dynasty down as shit.
Yeah, I'm super interested in how they do Kang.
Avengers. Yeah, that
I just hope
we're going to be the Avengers at that point. Like
I hope they at least do what they didn't do with Thanos, because I thought Thanos was milquetoast. There was nothing about him that was interesting. He had no backstory or anything. They're just like, oh, this planet is destroyed once, and I'm like, all right, and it's fine.
He was just like an imposing badass like force.
With
fight.
Really whatever after credits that people got hyped about. I get it, but it was also very whatever.
I think it was still like
King,
the building blocks at that point.
Yeah.
Now they've developed. Of course, I mean nobody.
That's why I'm like,
turn into this.
With King, they could definitely do a movie about him or his whole like origin or something, or give a good focus on him to give it back. Like what we're about to talk about in Thor. Actually, I was like, this is already 20 times better than Thanos with Thor. Just with 2 minutes of an intro with him, I was like, okay, this is better.
Right. What King stuff can I read on Marvel?
God damn it.
You really want to know?
No. I
15 seconds.
15 seconds. Tell me
honestly, for those of you that want to jump on to like a newer like Kang thing, seriously read the Young Avengers. There's some Kang stuff in there. Really read Young Avengers for anything. But there's some Kurt Busiek did some Kang stuff in the late 90s and early 2000s that's really good. That'll probably be hinted at a lot in Kang Dynasty. So that's just my off the cuff like. And there was a Kang miniseries that came out last year that was pretty good. Kang stuff is really difficult because he's all about time travel. What was that?
Wasn't he also in Uncanny Avengers? It was like that X-Men Avenger group post AVX.
I don't know actually. I was not an Uncanny Avengers reader.
Okay, I wasn't either.
The most exposure I've had to Kang was actually in a cartoon, the Avengers Assemble.
I was gonna say that. Yeah,
I think
show was fucking dope, dude.
Yeah, and
So
like
good.
I loved like that was like he basically like scanned Iron Man, was like, oh, you got a suit kind of like mine, just way more like technologically inferior, and just like,
All right.
yo, how far forward is this guy in time that he's calling Iron Man's tech like
centuries.
Yeah,
Centuries
and-
ahead. Yeah.
and
All
yeah,
right.
he basically is like almost got magic level tech, it
Mhm.
seems, and like time power.
Go watch that cartoon. If you guys just want to watch something, that's a great cartoon to just
Yeah.
watch.
Good
It's
times.
just like the weirdest thing about him is this weird like TV box head.
Yes.
Uh,
All right. Moving on.
That body color.
So we can actually get to the fucking feature.
Yeah.
Thor: Love and
Sandman.
Thunder.
Oh,
Yes, exactly. You fucking Sandman, you son of a bitch. Thor: Love and Thunder. Everyone watched the movie. I think some of us watched it twice. I'm thinking. Anyone watch it more than twice? No? Good.
I haven't. I've been wanting to watch it a second time so bad. I'd watch it 2 or 3 more times though.
There were
Okay.
definitely like at least one thing was cleared up for me where like the first time I watched it, I was like, why did Gore know to try to find Infinity? Like, why did he go to that? And like watching it again, like literally the sword basically tells him like, go to Infinity, kill the gods. Like that's like the first thing he does. I was like,
You must
Oh,
kill
I
the
just
Prime
wasn't
Minister of
paying
Malaysia. And it was like, oh fuck. But we got it
My
divided in
landlord
5
from
parts.
3 years ago. Go hit him up.
The Gore is actually just Zoolander. That's what happened, guys. There's 5 portions I want to go through here. So overall plot and kind of like the comics it pulls from, which then Ryan comes in with his expertise of that Jason Aaron run.
I knew there was a reason why I'm here.
Pacing, the balance of comedy and seriousness, which kind of is the whole,
Oh,
I guess,
God.
Taika Waititi thing there. The characters, which really it's just the Thors, Gore, and Valkyrie. And then music and effects, which will probably be the briefest. And then kind of, if we got time for it, what I call Thor pinball, which is kind of the inconsistency of Thor that I've noticed a lot from Ragnarok to now, counting the Avengers movies in between. But let's start with the plot itself and the comics it relates to.
I'm gonna say real fast. If you guys really want to go a deep dive on the God Butcher stuff and Gore, I was actually on an episode with Ryan on his show, and we covered the first 12 issues of Jason Aaron's run. That was all the Gore stuff, and we went like deep diving into curiosity. And then if you listen to his Jason Aaron interview, you actually hear the origin of Gore and stuff like that, which now I kind of want to talk about because I realize how that's also a
Gorgon?
connection to the Gorgon. I can't talk today. I'm so sorry. I'm trying my best. The origin of Gore, and also like I didn't realize I was also like a connection to Korg. Like I didn't
man.
realize like duh. I
Very
didn't
loose.
fucking- Yeah, very loose.
Relation.
Like yeah. but
We
I thought that
covered
was-
we covered that on Apollo City, where Jason Aaron said he got the name for Gore from the first issue of Journey into Mystery that featured Thor. There was one of the villains he faces off against is named Gore, and the other one just it so happens to be named Korg. So a little bit of a deep dive connection, but yeah.
Started off as a villain.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Yeah, we're doing a whole Jason Aaron retrospective thing, so it's been a lot of fun. So.
And then we covered the first appearance of this issue, like Journey into Mystery 83 on Apollo a few weeks back. I'm just going to give you all this like backup reference material, just if you guys want to go in a deep dive on all that. We did a lot of this stuff too. But you know, just to like kind of kickstart what Kamran was saying, like the connection between the comics and this, I will straight up say, as a big Gore fan and as a big doubter on his appearance and a big
Because he's lacking.
naysayer-
He's not lacking a nose. Actually, I was gonna say he's lacking a nose. And I was like, wait, no.
He's
Opposite.
lacking a lot of features and has more features than he does in the comics. You know, I thought it was spectacular. I thought it worked. I thought for what they were trying to do and for trying to like fit Gore and Jane Foster in, you could only handle so much, but they want to give you your biggest bang for your buck and try to adapt these 2 different storylines into one. I feel like we got the right kind of Gore. For the first time, we're trying to adapt a pretty new character. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like Miles Morales. Like, that character's only like 10 years old or something. And the fact that we're already getting adaptations in various mediums, it's still being explored. It's still being opened up. It's not like the Joker and Batman where it's just like, fucking get it right already. It's like, okay, this is our first attempt. Same thing with Venom. Like, I can't get too mad about some Venom stuff because it's like Venom sucked until Donny Cates came around. You know what I mean? So, like, some of these adaptations, you got to, like, kind of take it for what's happened to the character already and what's happened since then. But I think they nailed it. I think, and Christian Bale is just fucking phenomenal. Like, I loved it. I thought it was a real good mix of like fitting into the MCU and making it accessible for new readers and watchers, but also not oversaturating and going too deep into some stuff. Would I have liked more? Would I have liked the ending to maybe be more open to see more of it? Probably, but I dig what they did with it. Like I can't, see
Like
his
open
own
to gore,
spin.
like Gorpin, or like
Gorpin. Yeah, I wanted more Gorpining going on.
mhm.
Honestly, I really would have loved to see if it translated into a bigger thing like the God Bomb and the three Thors, like, and the whole. There was one scene in the comic where he has two Milnors and smashes them like to the side, which is one of the most epic panels ever. I would love to see stuff like that. But for what we got, I mean, fuck, it's cool. You kind of saw Noel in the background for a minute, so that was kind of neat.
Oh my gosh. You were never far away from a Donny Cates reference. I just love that.
Yeah, he's got like that venom tongue sticking out ready for it. He's like, yeah, give me the Donny Cates.
Oh, gross.
Yeah. For Ryan, I need to know.
Yeah.
What you think.
So here's what I'll say about Love and Thunder. Like, I don't really feel like it's the movie that you want to be like, was it better or worse than blank? Because we're starting off with Thor in a new portion of his life. Like the Infinity War is done, Thanos is done, and Taika has even said about this movie, like he designed this as like Thor's midlife crisis. And I think that theme comes through really evidently in this movie, that he is struggling. He's struggling between like the things he's lost and the things that he has back for that moment, Jane and Mjolnir, and those things. The emotion of this movie was really interesting for me because people have said, and we'll get to the balance of seriousness and humor, but Taika did the midlife crisis story for Thor. And if you actually, now here's what I'll say, listeners, if you actually understand Taika Waititi as a filmmaker, this movie did not shock you.
Right?
Like this movie did not
right.
surprise you. Now, if you don't understand Taika's filmmaking and you're mad about it, that's on you, because Taika has a very specific style. Like he approaches serious topics in a very unserious way. The guy made a movie about Hitler. Like, come on. Like
That's what I was saying. I was like,
and
yo,
Jojo
like,
Rabbit's
Hitler's
amazing.
Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've mentioned like there's that one moment in JoJo where it's like it goes from happy funny to like,
hey, your mom's singing.
oh my
from
god,
fucking-
and it's just like
your
it's
mom's
so
dead.
like
Honestly-
emotional whiplash and like done so like super well. Like it's hard to do like emotional whiplash like that intentionally and have it not be like just jarring.
Yes, dude. Yes, that was a great part that I liked about it. And the thing about Love and Thunder is that, right now there's a lot of, and I'm sick of this type of shit, like everywhere, and it's everywhere, like Euphoria, everything that's coming out. It's just super dark and bleak and depressing, just to be dark, bleak, and depressing. But
that's how you get
need,
Academy Awards, Brandon.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I love
But did you
depression.
not like Crimes of the Future?
I mean, honestly, like
I'm not
I'm gonna-
watching that.
like, you
Watching
guys
that.
hear me talk about it all the time, but like I'm a really big fan of MASH. Like I think MASH is one of the best TV shows ever, because you know what, they are on a war front, and it's a very
Korean
serious
War.
a Korean war front, like a very serious situation. But there's serious fucking moments in that show where people die, where things happen, and there's medical surgical things going on. But that show is so well crafted that you can't help but it's hilarious, it's funny, it's warming. Like sometimes when I'm in like a bad state, I'll just put on an episode of MASH, and it's the one thing that can make me laugh and genuinely appreciate shit for a little bit. And that's kind of Taika's approach to stuff, is some of this older comedy. There's that whole Zeus moment, that's all Mel Brooks. That is 100% a Mel Brooks fucking History of the World Part 1 like scenario. Like Taika has a really good thing of looking at this older comedy craft and bringing it into new light. And everyone wants that Thor to be depressed and bleak and Gore to be overwhelmingly dark and all this shit. And it works, but you know what? Like you could have that and balance it out with really good humor, to make it enjoyable, to make it kind of like enjoy it, fucking laugh, be happy for a little bit. The world's
Oh.
so bleak and dark and shit right now. Like, you can look at this story that is about heartbreak, that is about a midlife crisis, about losing everything, family members, love, all that, and then almost the risk of almost losing all that you have left, like when Korg nearly dies and almost ripped my heart out. But if you balance it out, like, it works well, and people just don't really like being able to be like, oh fuck, that's scary, oh man, that's hilarious too. Like, for some reason that doesn't work in their brains, when that's how good comedy is crafted, to be honest. That's the whole tragedy and comedy aspect of it. But going back to my MASH reference, it's just that that's such a good show, because you could have a surgical scene where somebody dies, but also take a break and kind of like relieve yourself from it, and that's the only way you can move through life at a certain point too. So it's brilliant. I think that's a real brilliant way to go about it, and it's something that we've drifted so far from as a society, and in filmmaking and TV shows and everything. That's what I appreciated most about it.
Yeah, it wasn't dark enough for me. No, I'm just kidding.
I laughed. I enjoyed myself too much, I think.
Yeah, it's not right.
I would have preferred to be sadder when I left.
Yeah,
The
right.
world
I
has-
wanted Thor to get gored or Gore to get Thored, and none of these things happened, and that was very sad.
Brandon, down to call him out like on a hard thing, but he was saying that I don't know if this is an official statement, but this was our bro talk. But he was saying that the movie didn't know what it wanted to be.
Ooh.
Like,
Because of the going between the comical
humor
and serious
dark
tone
aspect, yeah.
which we just it's the whole, I mean, honestly, that's pretty much what we're talking about here, is the pacing at this point, of just like, because I was saying like pacing balance, like comedy and seriousness, like that is Taika Waititi in a nutshell, going through it. And the whole thing with this, because I was somewhat skeptical about this movie before it came out, because this had happened before, where I'm like, Thor Ragnarok was really good, it was not good as necessary Thor Asgard movie, because it just fucking gets got immediately and you're like, what the fuck just happened? But like, it was a great movie, and I'm like, I really enjoyed it. And I've seen all this other, What We Do in the Shadows, what we just said, Jojo Rabbit, and all these other movies, and I'm like, I haven't seen one bad thing from Taika Waititi ever. Like, he's just been, at least from what I've seen, has been consistently good, and each time I've been completely satisfied. And I'm like, I was the same with James Gunn. And then Guardians 2 came out, and I'm like, this is the worst of all of them. Like, I didn't like this at all. This is really bad. Whereas, like, straight up, it was like probably at the bottom of MCU movies for me, whereas Guardians 1 is very much at the top. And I love his other movies like Slither, Super, and whatnot. And I'm just like, yeah, this is not good. And I'm like, would this happen with Taika Waititi? And it did not. To me, it did not. And I was very happy with what I got.
That's funny, because Ragnarok is the one movie I don't like out of that whole bunch. That's kind of interesting.
Fight.
But-
Oh,
No,
no.
we're not gonna fight. We're just gonna do the
re-
rock hand thing.
reasonably
I think, the
so.
little
Like,
rock
I
baby.
felt like Ragnarok was very Disney focused on the jokes and some of the aspects. I felt like Disney put their foot in a little too much with Ragnarok.
But there was an orgy yacht, the pleasure
remember
barge.
Dude, honestly, I
It's
barely
my
even remember. I
birthday!
saw it twice, and it just seemed like too much. Also, you're transitioning from like Thor Dark World, and then you get Ragnarok.
I know, that's why it felt weird, because
Yeah.
you're like, oh, are we finally gonna get like a good like Thor Asgard movie and all his friends there? And it's like, no, your friends are dead. Fuck you. You fucking
Yeah.
planet's blown
They
up. you
basically
hammer
reset
shit.
the series right there.
I
And you're
think
like, oh.
and it could just be me. It could just be me. But like this one, I think it's settled in better, and I thought the jokes landed way better. I thought it was more Taika than anything. There's a lot of lines in there that you just have to listen for, and it's fucking hilarious and undercut. But you're so busy laughing at one thing, and there's so much going on still. But like Ragnarok, all it did for me was like there was a bunch of Kirby references and artwork.
Yeah. I think like focus wise, Love and Thunder is probably better paced than Ragnarok, just because like I loved Ragnarok. I thought it was really, really fun, but I can definitely see that like there was a through point for the plot of like, Hela's back, they got to deal with Hela, but most of the movie Thor is trying to figure out how to get off of I forget the name, Sakaar.
Get there. Come on.
Yeah.
Sakaar.
Yeah. And so like a lot of that movie felt like watch Thor do fun stuff in this wacky place, and then eventually we'll get back to the plot. Whereas Thor: Love and Thunder, it had like what felt like the same amount of jokes, but it was more focused on like, okay, there's this gore problem. Thor wants to protect the gods, protect Asgard, and like also get the kids back because Gore stole all the Asgardian kids, and apparently some other ones too. One of the ones like, I'm a Midassian kid.
Yeah, you're all Asgardians now. I love that this movie.
Let's not get hung up on the details.
This movie is very much like a hot and cold shower where you're like, he's joking about the hammer being in a relationship. I have cancer. Oh, fuck.
But at least like, so the whole movie was,
That's literally what they do.
so the whole movie was like Thor, for the most part, was Thor going from like interesting event to interesting event, but it was all trying to find Gore and find a way to stop Gore the whole time. So at least it felt a bit more focused.
Yes. It's the only thing, I don't want to say it's bad, but the thing that this movie felt like it was one of those things where you're just like, wait, are we already done? Like, it just felt like it just went through. I don't know why, but there's certain movies that do that where some of you feel like it was a long period, I guess Lord of the Rings or whatever, and it feels like a lot's gone on, and others, because it's such a set plot of like, this is what it's about. When you go through it, you forget that there was even a part where you're like, wait, was there like a beginning to this, or did we just like kind of just go through it and it's just done already? Yeah, you're like it's done. Like, what the oh wait, but didn't we just got to that planet, but it's already over? Okay. And it's like that, it has that feeling. So I don't want to say rushed, but it's like I think it's so concise that you feel like it's like that food you eat, but it's such a it's just gone. You're like, where's my chocolate bar? I just had my chocolate. I don't know. Do you guys get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Oh, totally.
It just doesn't feel like it drags at any point.
No,
yeah,
it keeps you going. Like, and it's one of those movies you almost have to watch twice to kind of get it all, which is fine. You know what I mean? Because I want my money's worth. And the story, like, you want it to be worthwhile enough to rewatch it. I said this in Ryan's show. Multiverse of Madness and Love and Thunder are the first Marvel films since Civil War that I've wanted to rewatch right when I left the theater. Like,
interesting.
Everything from Endgame to all that stuff, like, I saw it and I was like, cool, nice, sweet. And I have not seen Shang-Chi because I've heard it's really phenomenal. I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and actually like watch it, which is why I haven't watched it yet, because I want to enjoy it. But that might be on that list too. But literally, like, everything except for WandaVision and up to Doctor Strange, those are the only two things that really stood out to me. And this one too, like, Love and Thunder was just like fun, and I went in very skeptical because I wasn't a fan of Ragnarok, and I was just like, well, let's find out what happens. And from the start, of course, the whole soundtrack thing that, everyone's trying to copy James Gunn on is like kind of like annoying at a certain extent. But hey, you get what you can take at that point. But that's like my like, one of my only like actual gripes about the film. I'm sure there's other smaller tinkering ones, but like, I mean, it's fun, and that's what you got to take it for. And for what they did for Jane and her character, dude, that shit was powerful. That was just good.
Yeah, I mean, we want to just move on into the characters themselves, really.
Well, can I just add one more thing?
Yes, go right ahead.
Piggyback off something Brandon said. You said that the audiences were like, do they even know what's going on? Do they know what to expect, what they're doing? I think maybe the problem with this movie was that audiences didn't know what to expect.
Yeah,
The story, here's the thing, the storytelling, if you go and you listen to what Taika wanted to do with this movie, it is 100% accomplished. Everything he set out to do from a directorial story point of view, it's all accomplished. I think what happened was audiences looked at like, oh, they're gonna do Gore, oh, Jane is Thor. I mean, let's get past the fact that Thor's not a girl, and I hate when they do that to characters. But like, they wanted to do both these characters. They wanted to do both these characters. People went in with the expectations and the speculation. When, newsflash, people, Taika Waititi is not a comic book writer. He's not a comic book editor. He's never tried to. He has even said he doesn't read comics.
Oh,
so what he's given is he's given a roster of characters to kind of do a play with, and he's Taika Waititi, so he does filmmaking the way that he does filmmaking, and he does filmmaking the way that Disney hired him to do filmmaking.
True.
So if you're mad about getting something you were never promised, that's not Taika Waititi's fault.
Yeah.
So that's just my own little, like, my one little soapbox thing is like, what are you expecting? Oh, you're expecting it to be a comic book? Then go read a comic book.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
Go read a
the
comic
same
book.
thing on Iron Man 3 and no one listened.
Like,
But
go enjoy a comic book and, like, let me enjoy this. If but
You know,
that's
you
just
don't
my
get it,
my
Ryan. You don't
optimistic
get to
opinion.
enjoy this. You don't get how this works.
I'm
okay?
sorry.
well, what Ryan's saying is very true, because when it came down, just to like back that statement up a little bit more, when it came down to Gore's appearance and what they were saying, they're like, all right, it's too much like Voldemort.
Oh, they fucking ruined him.
as,
Fucking
like,
ruined him.
And I said that right away. I will stand here and tell you guys the truth. Like, I was just like, fuck this. Like, this is not my Gore. You know what I mean? Like,
Not my Gore.
hashtag my but
Not
you know,
Like a
my
Martha
Gore.
Stewart episode.
hearing like the reasoning behind it, and as like a creator, that's where I channel into, and like I want to hear the reasoning behind stuff, the reason. And then we're going to transition to characters anyways, just to knock this out. But
Gore, Blood and Thunder. I don't know how to sound that.
that'd be cool. Mastodon. All right. So for one, he said that looked too much like Voldemort, and as a visual standing, I could understand that 100%.
Oh, duh.
And then if you're not gonna like look at like the CGI aspect of what they would have had to do to him, and I said this too when I was talking shit about not my Gore. I was like, okay, if Bale like kicks ass so much that they just want to take that away and let him just perform, I'm down for it. And that's what they did. They delivered. But also Taika was like, I'm so immersed with like Gore's story and why he became what he became. That's what was important to me. The visuals, like, that's great. That's one aspect, but it's his story that matters. And as soon as he said that, I was just like, I'm sold. You got me. Cool. If you're focusing on the
Brandon,
story, yeah.
Brandon, I don't want to wait to hear a whole story. I want to make snap judgments based on like one leaked photo.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want.
Are you telling me that bald, white, no-nose, barefoot man looks like that bald, white, no-nose, barefoot man?
Yeah, as soon as they were like, as soon as I think it was
can't
Taika
Instead of a
Waititi or
wand,
someone
it's
was
just
like,
like a longer sword. Like,
Yeah.
so he has a magic sword and he has no nose. It's like, okay, yeah, I could see how that could be
Honestly,
Voldemort-esque.
Now that you say that, I actually, oh my god, they ruined it. Now I want that to happen. I wish that had happened because it would have been even funnier. I would have fucking loved the shit out of that. And if Gore hugs one of the kids, like, "Come here, Draco,"
you know,
and I'll be like,
crazy?
"Oh my god, this is amazing."
Well, he did have a moment like that in the cage where he's like,
He's
"Oh,
like,
you guys like stories about like beheadings? Here's the little thing. Snap."
What's
Just
really
throws the
interesting-
head
Well, you
into
liked
their
it a
lap.
second ago.
We would still be looking at Voldemort Gore memes right now
Yeah.
if
Oh,
that
yeah.
had happened. And people would be over it
oh
by
my
now.
God.
I
Very
think
much
a
so.
big
Like-
reason too, when you read the comic, Jason Aaron's run, Gore's outfit gets darker and creepier as it evolves, as he continues through the journey, and even the artwork's different. It's fucking phenomenal.
Interesting.
As you
but
watch more of the
I-
season pass, you see your character change throughout the day.
Yeah, and I went to the Harry Potter exhibit up in Philly like a few weeks ago, and I got to see all the costumes and all that shit. And I was reading the details on Voldemort's outfit, and it is literally to the T. Like, it gets darker and it starts changing and transforming as
I
the
never
movies
noticed that.
progress. I didn't really notice that either until like I was reading the details on each one of his outfits through the evolution of the film, and then I was
Interesting.
like, "Fuck, that is just, he would have just been Gore. Like, we already got our Gore on screen in a sense, in a magical different world, and it's the same exact fucking thing, like to the T. So I'm glad they went this route.
So,
So,
Brandon,
cool.
are you claiming? Now, let me, if I'm hearing you incorrectly, please, tell me. Are you saying that these creators actually might have a plan when they put these movies together? They're not just winging shit. Like,
No,
Easy.
They're not
Wait, hold on.
deciding to take artistic license for no reason.
no, that can't be it. That can't be it.
Better
Shit.
reasoning than that. Like, they're
No.
Yeah.
I don't
they're just
believe it. I
assholes. That's
refuse
what they
to.
are. Like,
I really appreciated that this movie started with like Gore's tragedy and
Oh,
showing you like
exactly.
why,
Immediately.
This
why
is why I'm
he
saying
hates
this
the
is
gods so much.
20 times better than Thanos right there, because they actually gave like a
I mean,
whole intro where I'm like,
The
oh wow, This
Well,
is
the way
interesting.
he like buried his daughter and he was just like cradling the mound was so sad. And then he like hears the necrosword and he like finds his god
Yes.
and his god laughs at him. Is like, oh, all your friends and family died. Well, as well you should. That's what you're here for me to watch you die, essentially. And he's just like, I renounce you and I kill you and I'm gonna kill all the gods because you all deserve it. And I was like, maybe he's right.
Do it. Pick up the sword. Kill
I thought that was cool. I thought, and I mean, the Necro Sword was a big thing to me too because I'm a big Knoll fan, and I love, of course, like,
Just the way it moves through shadows
Oh,
was
is that a null
so
thing?
cool. Just like even though the first time it like slowly raises out from the ground from his shadow is so cool.
Oh, did we just use Ryan?
Oh, no,
Hmm?
there you
No,
go.
we're still
there we
going.
go.
No, it's just a
I'm
message.
good.
There's-
I was trying to be really sneaky and subtle about it because I didn't want to forget to send Kamran something, but
Oh, is
this
this
will
a tie-in for the movie?
this will be good. This will be good audio to cut out.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like just his way of like making shadow monsters and teleporting through shadows was super cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, very much so. I think my favorite scene though was when Thor's like, Gore, this is for the murder of William James Potter, and then he proceeds to fucking,
It was a little bit weird when Thor got out his dual monsters deck and was like, we got to fight him in the Shadow Realm.
Yeah.
Oh
Dude, when he
yeah.
said the Shadow Realm, I was like, for fuck's, are you serious? You're really doing this?
What
I love
kid
the
in their
planet's,
late
like,
20s,
this
early
big.
30s didn't think, oh my God, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Right.
What I love that the planet is literally just like 10 feet in like full
That
radius.
was so
I'm
weird.
like,
They crash
pulled
into it.
yeah,
they pulled a
not
Rick
big
and
at all.
Morty.
It's not big at all. I think, yeah, pretty much more or less we've gotten through the pacing, but yeah, these characters, holy shit. Like, we've been talking about Gore. Let's just finish up Gore.
I love
if
Jane
there's anything
Foster in
else.
this movie. Like, yeah, I love like one of my favorite scenes of her is just like when.
Oh wait, are we done with Gore?
Oh, are
Are we
we?
done with Gore?
I'm
That's what I'm
pretty
asking.
done with them. I'm done with Gore.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Pretty
like
much.
so I liked seeing how she's like desperate to try to find a way to save herself and she just doesn't want to like reach out and ask Thor for help. So she like tries to find her own cure and then she becomes the mighty Thor and like it's not working. And like the scene that really like hit hard for me was when she like stumbles into the bathroom and like drops the hammer and she's immediately back to like extremely sick Jane Foster and she's just like, you know, picks up the hammer again, smashes the sink because she's like frustrated that she's like so powerful but so weak. And like that, like,
Shit's deep, dude.
yeah. Like that
And
was hard.
Is that, I could be completely wrong. I'm just curious because it's the whole thing of like, oh, you know, you take it and you feel great and then it wears off and you're worse than you were before. Is that supposed to be
from what I
similar to
understand in the
addiction or
comic?
no?
Well, you would probably know more than me, Ryan.
But is that similar to
Sorry, I heard
addiction?
two questions.
Or like why the hammer isn't like fixing Jane.
Because really it's not supposed to. Like that's what's kind of crazy about that is like when Aaron introduced this concept in the Thor comics, like it was never going to fix her.
Yeah.
It was only going to give her the power she needed to have the mantle of Thor for the time that she had it. And it's through the story, you realize like, oh, it's kind of eliminating the chemo. And it's not attacking the cancer because the cancer is, you know, quote unquote, a part of her, but the chemotherapy isn't.
It's like a poison that it's removing, right?
Yeah. So that's why every time it's almost like she has a health bar that you can kind of see. It's like you only have this many lives left, Jane. You know, you can only do this process so many different times. And that's why talk about favorite parts of the movie, like that hospital scene at the end. Gutted me. Like it's
really well done.
and yes, like for the people that want to nitpick, like, yeah, it's different than how she does it in the comics, but it's no less powerful. Like she does it.
You're also confined to like 2 hours. I don't know what you expect.
Yeah.
I expected 8 years of comics to be quickly concised into a 2-hour movie, Kamran. That's what I expected.
Did he really do that run for 8 years?
Yeah.
Really
Jason Aaron wrote over 100 issues of Thor.
Oh man.
Only 2 other men have done that in the history of Marvel Comics. One of them is a guy you may have heard of named Stan Lee.
But yeah, also another awesome scene for Jane for me was like when Gore, where she like came to save Thor at the end, and Gore was like,
Yes.
you've already lost Lady Thor. And she's like, first off, it's the mighty Thor. And if that's not good enough, you can call me Dr. Jane Foster. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, because
Yeah.
She could've
being
just
doctor's
said-
already impressive enough.
I'm surprised, and not once in the movie she goes, "I'm Dr. Thor." I've been like, there you
That
go.
was funny.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
It's so easy.
Make it efficient.
It's Dr. Thor to you.
And just like, dude, the way that they actually use the fact that like Mjolnir is still technically shattered, and she can like
Oh.
shotgun blast the different shards, and then like, the
Yes.
way it all comes back together on the hilt is so cool. Like there was one time she like sent the shards out, and then she like shoved the handle into the mouth of one of those shadow like creatures, and then they all came back like onto its skull and killed it. And I was just like, oh, that's like such a cool use of that hammer.
Yeah. I cracked up the amount of blood that was like in whenever she destroyed them. Like it didn't spare an expense for that for some reason. With the
Dude.
effects, was just like, look at all the blood coming out of this monster, and I'm like,
They went a little
Disney?
overboard, especially in like Omnipotent City when they're like taking out I guess the robot guard things
oh well,
that
yeah,
are full
gold
of
blood
golden
though. No one
blood.
gives a shit about gold blood. That's the Disney's like, it's fine, kids. It's
Wait a
gold
minute.
blood. It's okay.
Imagine if that blood was red, this would have an R rating.
Yeah, I mean that's the
Hold
whole thing
on,
with
but, like, the
Disney's
other
a
gods
big
all-
like it's funny when it's killing people is great if it's funny, is it right, kids? It's funny. Killing
Here's the
people.
thing though. I just realized the other gods also had gold blood, so were
Yeah.
they just straight up killing actual gods? And like I love Valkyrie's just like bathing in the blood.
Oh, that's true.
Again, That's a rated R scene if that blood is red. And
Yep.
largely Kamran's right, like largely played for it's why like honestly I don't relate with movies like Deadpool. It's like, oh, so this is funny. Okay, okay.
That's why all these
That is when he
only-
arranges the body to spell out someone's name.
I think the only Disney movie, none of the Marvel movies do it right. The only Disney movie I think that has ever done it right is probably just Pirates of the Caribbean, because you're like, oh, it's pirates, fuck it. Like, who cares if someone dies? Like, you're expecting people to die, so that's why it is funny. Usually, everyone else is just like,
Usually.
the rest I'm like, well, this is culturally kind of scary, but whatever.
We're not addicted to violence, no big deal, whatever. You know, let's move on.
Yeah. I thought Jane was a really fun character for this, especially, going from just two movies love interest for the most part, just being more of the mind in both of those movies, to this one being also the I guess the bronze in the body besides just the mind.
She's
for
like,
that.
I just don't want to talk about this. Let's smash something.
Yeah. I did like that they're like, yo, we're gonna make her writing fucking terrible, but it's on purpose. I was like, okay, fine, I get it. She's like just became Thor, so she's
like
got
trying
like
to-
shitty fucking everything.
Yeah. Let's make them fear the rainbow. Like,
Yes.
what?
Jump the gun. It's like, what the fuck are you talking
Yeah.
about? She's in her own world right now.
I
What's
loved
kind
her
of funny
writing.
about that whole thing is like I've heard that comment of like her writing was so cheesy. I'm like,
That's the point.
guys, you need if you want to compare it to your precious comic books, go read a Jane Foster comic.
Yes.
Because
she
she
that-
is
is she
like
cheesy as
this.
well?
Like her
Oh my
writing
God.
is super over the top. She said, she tries out catchphrases for like a year in publication. Like
That's
she tries
great.
out all these different catchphrases. And like the way that she gets the hammer is just as ridiculous. She goes to the moon and she picks it up. That's it. Like,
That's hilarious.
oh well, I didn't feel they fleshed out the why she's worthy. I'm like, they don't do it in the comic books either.
Oh,
That's
come
And that was,
on.
I guess,
especially in that run where it's like widely acclaimed. That's
You
pretty
just
funny.
understand.
Right.
Like,
Like,
you
that's
see
what I'm saying.
Jane-
like it can be simple and good.
you
Like,
don't
see
know,
her
like-
struggle, you see like what she's doing and like who she is, and then it just kind of
Yeah.
makes sense at that point. You know what I mean?
well, they also
And-
had that thing where it's like, when Korg was telling the story of like how Jane and Thor broke up, and how like they both got busy saving the world until there was no time between them. And it's like, yeah, Jane, like even without powers, was trying to use her like science knowledge to like figure out ways to make the lives of everyone better.
Yeah.
And like that is heroic. So that, I would say, makes you potentially worthy of the hammer of Thor, even if he doesn't like give like, I don't know, some sort of magic stipulation of like, always protect her, Mjolnir. I love you, buddy.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought it was fun. It's funny how Disney spoils their own shit more than anyone else. where it's like if you didn't watch in the first 2 days, you're fucked pretty much.
What if they put Beta Ray Bill in one of the trailers? That would have been fucking hilarious.
Well, I think it would have been hilarious if, you know, that scene where she goes to the hammer and like you see it starting to light up. What if she's never in a trailer and you see that and you go, no, they wouldn't do that. Would they do that? And then all of a sudden she appears in that battle and you're just like,
Dude,
like,
I would have lost my fucking mind if like they had actually not talked about like the mighty Thor at all, and then that just like shows up, because that was like definitely one of the major things when the first trailer dropped and people were like, whoa, they're actually doing it. Although they also mentioned it at San Diego Comic-Con when she like literally walked out with the hammer.
Yeah, Natalie Portman's like, I have a hammer now.
It was like the first thing that they talked about. So I mean, I was already hyped, but I can only imagine the moment in the theater when like it happens. If they had never mentioned it, like it would have been insane.
Can you imagine how tight-lipped everyone would have had to been to keep like really a whole like major aspect of the movie quiet? Like it would have been awesome if they could pull it off.
Some paparazzi stops Natalie Portman and they're like, hey, why'd you get so jacked all of a sudden? Nothing.
I'm gonna do a triathlon.
Natalie Jackman now, guys. Leave me alone.
I'm Hugh Jackman now.
This is they want me to be Wolverine.
That's great,
dude. She could play X-23. I'd give her that.
We can't start talking about X-23. We'll be here for forever.
Yeah, we're gonna be here forever.
I want to see her so bad.
So we have those two.
Laura
Quickly,
Kinney.
if we want to go through Valkyrie,
another way we'll be here all the rest of the day.
Just to start off with this, I saw I don't know if I brought this up on Ryan's thing or not, but there was like a Nerdist post that it said something about Valkyrie did not, or Thor Love and Thunder did not give proper representation of the LBGQ community. And then I was just like, what? Like it did not, it wasn't enough of it in the film to give proper representation to it. And I was like,
there's no tongue.
But Korg found his mate Dwayne though.
And to me, it's just like, you know, having that element within the story doesn't mean we need to like slam it down all of our throats and have it be the primary focus
like a tongue.
Core. Like, yeah, literally. Like, I think people want that representation, or these people who criticize the representation of it in these films, like they expect it to be full front. Like, this is all we're going to think about and focus on and all this type of stuff. When it's just like, if it's not part of the story, you don't need to do it. It existing in the universe is good enough to a certain extent. I'm kind of curious, and I know we're a bunch of dudes talking, straight white dudes talking about this right now, but like,
we're the only ones qualified to talk about it. So
yeah, right, yeah, we're the all knowers, you know. But I just felt like it was so off because I felt like, okay, we had Valkyrie, we had Korg, and all that type of stuff. Like I thought that was pretty sweet, and it felt balanced, not balanced, but I mean, it felt as appropriate as possible, you know. It didn't feel forced. There you go. Anymore, it could have felt forced, and here
like I love Valkyrie as she's like stealing Zeus's thunderbolt and like jumping off the platform. She like grabs the hand of one of the ladies and gives her a kiss. And just like, okay, I'm out. Maybe I'll see you again sometime.
Yeah. Love
Yeah.
I love that.
I think it's also, I mean, when you really look at even Thor and Jane, there's not really anything with them except for like what two scenes. It's like, oh, I'm kissing you because you're dying, and then like that one portion on the boat. It's like very.
I want to feel shitty for you.
Yeah, and I'm like, that's
scene,
like two scenes that make up probably less than 30 seconds of the entire film. It's barely even there. And at that point, yeah, like you said, everything at certain points things will get forced, but I think it's also one of those battles you'll never be able to win. Because if you potentially did do it, then people would say it's forced, and like there's all this other stuff. It's like one of those you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It's going to be too much for some people, not enough for others.
Yeah,
like no matter where you are,
different base, angry or some shit, or someone will be like, "Oh, my kid was watching this." Like, yeah, and
so
what about it?
I literally know people that didn't go see the new Buzz Lightyear movie because one of the side characters is in a committed homosexual relationship, and I was like, it's a great
that's
movie.
why I didn't see it. Yeah.
I assumed, I knew that would be the hot button issue, like, and I'm trying to get my Lightyear agenda in here right now, but like Lightyear, I knew
that's
people
my favorite
like,
Marvel character.
I'm not gonna
he's a new Iron Man, right?
He's Space Iron Man,
fighting
or
Thanos.
as they call him, Spaceman.
Buzz Lightyear versus Thanos. That's what I want to see.
Oh my god, that'd be so funny.
I didn't know that though.
People come up with stupid reasons not to see great movies.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
I mean, okay, I'm gonna rant real fast. That's like
Oh my
No,
god.
denying-
No.
real fast. 30 seconds, 10 seconds. That's like
15.
No.
praising Paper Moon because it's in black and white, and people just don't know how to comprehend a black and white movie to like a in color movie. Yeah, people will just dismiss films just because it's in black and white. I was like, that
That's
doesn't make it
unfortunate.
any. Yeah, right. Because Paper Moon's a fucking great movie, and so if you're just dismiss stupid shit. Anyways, my bad.
All right.
Go
Yeah.
on, Paper
So
Moon.
yeah, no, that's stupid if
So,
these are the reasons
I guess
for any of this.
overall, I
Okay.
thought I've liked Valkyrie since they introduced her. It's just like
She's
I don't
fun
think
as hell.
she just wasn't like a huge focus of this movie,
No.
which was fine. I guess.
I mean, like she was the
I
fourth
did
most
like
important
her,
character. Everyone else wasn't really important.
I
The
did like
cast-
her.
The cast isn't that big.
No,
That's
it's very
true.
small. That's why I'm saying it's
Yeah.
just two Thors, a Gore, and a Valkyrie.
I did like
and
her.
a, and a
uh,
Korg. And a Korg.
yeah.
Two
I
Thors,
did like her
one
moment.
Gore, new movie coming.
When they're in like Omnipotent City and they're like, okay, so this guy probably not the best idea for like an army, but his Thunderbolt, that'd be pretty cool. I'm gonna steal it. You go left, I go right, and we'll just take it. Boom, we're out of here. Like, what?
It's a very quick impromptu heist movie.
Yeah.
That whole Zeus thing, I don't know. And Kamran, I'm kind of curious to your thoughts about my reaction to it, but I thought it was very Mel Brooksy, and I caught that
Yeah.
right when I was watching it. I don't know if you got the same vibe.
Well,
His fucking
especially-
accent, yes.
Well, the accent, and then like the fact that like when the platform like docks into the stage area and he like goes to the stairs and he totally didn't have to, but he like holds on to like the frills of his dress part
Yes.
and just like walks down like 3 steps.
Yeah, I felt like I was watching History of the World Part 1.
Right?
Yes, I was. I felt like that very much so. Yes.
We are safe here in Omnipotent City, so have some grape, have some wine,
How do you think
and chill out, baby. We're all cool here.
I just can't believe Russell Crowe did that. Like
Yeah.
the guy who was Gladiator did that.
Yes.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
Holy
oh my
shit! You're
God.
fucking right. Oh my god!
The "Are you not entertained" guy did that.
Hell yeah.
Maximus
I am
Orgius.
super excited to see Roy Kent come back as Hercules though.
Oh my god, I was not ready for that. Yeah. If you guys, please tell me both of you watched Ted Lasso.
Yeah, fuck yeah. I love
Ryan, watch Ted Lasso, and then that
Ryan, you haven't watched
Hercules
Ted
reveal
Lasso?
will actually blow
Okay,
your fucking
here's the
mind.
thing. I got shit going on.
That's
But
fair.
no, seriously, there's 2 things this year that have been recommended to me, I think no less than 100 times. And it's Ted Lasso and the new Top Gun movie. Like
Also,
those 2
Your
things.
positivity is perfect for Ted Lasso.
Dude,
That's why I
I
also
thought-
think you'd like it a lot.
I swear.
That's also not the first time I've heard that.
I would have dropped dead. Like just.
I
thought
love
you'd seen
Jason
Ted Lasso.
Sudeikis. So
Wow, man,
Yeah.
yeah, you should fucking watch Ryan. I'm shocked. You're like you're a Ted Lasso person. That's why your personality.
your
rating-
positivity is perfect for Ted Lasso.
Awesome.
It honestly, I give a fuck about Hercules, and Ryan can give me some recommendations to read some stuff.
Yeah, I don't
to
give a
change my
shit, but it's
mind.
Roy Kent,
Otherwise,
so now I care a lot now.
I care even less than that.
Come
than the Ted
on.
Lasso guy. The fact that I saw the CGI body and all that, I was like, this is
Yeah,
stupid
so
as
I mean
hell.
that's a lot of the. I mean, really fast going through the. I was saying like music and the I guess visual effects of this film. The music is very much just kind of. I think that those were the weakest points of the film. It was definitely. In
I don't
that.
know. I'm biased. I love 80s rock, so like I was like every one of these songs is awesome and I love it.
I fucking hate
What
Guns
a
N' Roses.
shill.
I hate Guns N' Roses.
Yeah,
The
no.
Guns N' Roses songs I like are the songs that where it doesn't sound like it's Axl, like Night Train and shit like that.
Mm,
Like I fucking hate Guns N' Roses.
really? Oh man.
And it's like one of
Like-
those things where it's like we couldn't make our own soundtrack, so here's like already made music. Because I mean that is a big thing where in a lot of Marvel movies. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but personally, Marvel movies never have any good music except for like the Guardians theme, the Avengers theme, and that's about it.
I can
Unless you,
agree.
yeah. Otherwise,
agree.
it's just like, hey, it's James Gunn's Volume 1 playlist, and
I
you're
wish
like,
they could
yeah.
get rights to other artists other than like AC/DC and Guns N' Roses. Like I'm literally wearing an Iron Maiden t-shirt, like Live After Death from like whatever 80.
Name 5 songs right now.
They did have Rainbow in the
can't, I
Dark
can-
from Dio. They get points
I
for me
will,
for
I will
having the
give
Dio
that. No,
song.
yeah. No, yeah, that was dope as shit. I loved it ending with Rainbow in the Dark. I thought that was cool shit. Like, I want more stuff like that integrated into it. You know what I mean? I'm just so tired of the top 3 like bands that they always use. And I'm sure it's probably like rights and copyrights and shit like that. But
Yeah.
I fry out on stuff like that really hard because I grew up with my dad showing me Zeppelin and Kiss and Judas Priest and Motorhead and shit like that, and Maiden and Motley Crue. Like I would have rather heard some of those other
Motley
bands.
Crue, yeah.
Yeah,
I'd
like
love to
that-
see some Motley Crue.
Right,
I mean,
that'd be
there's-
fun. Like that'd be super cool.
There
But
was sorry.
I would say like Peacemaker did it right. I felt, which of
Mm.
course is James Gunn though. But like those were
Mhm.
'80s bands that you never really heard of, but it was still super dope. That I'm up for. But like AC/DC and GNR are just two bands I just can never get.
It's also
behind.
balanced. Like it was just well overplayed. I think actually one of the things there was a video I don't remember it anymore, but it was a long time ago, and they're like, yeah, Marvel movies could be so much better even with just their music changing. And these like the first Thor movie is an example where it felt very wacky when they show his friends show up to Earth, and then like they changed the music to like actually like, hey, your friends are here and they're here for you type of music, and it actually changed where I'm like, oh, this could have been so much better just by changing the music. Like that would have literally been like a point up in a review for someone, I think, just by that small happenstance. But the other thing was visual effects really fast. Just they were okay. Obviously
There were definitely some things that stood out to me as like just straight up not good. And like the one in particular
it's
is
a
like,
recurring thing.
well, for me, it was every time Jane Foster's helmet like did the nano effect over her head, which first off is weird to me that maybe I'm looking too much into it, but it sounded exactly like the nano suits from Infinity or Endgame. So it's just weird to me that it's like it's supposed to be Asgardian technology, but it sounds like Earth technology, because I think Disney at this point is like, whatever, we'll just do the same like whooshy effect and it works fine. And then like there's specifically the scene where they are walking into Omnipotent City and Jane for some reason puts her helmet on. It looked very flat on her face, like it was literally just pasted over her,
Oh wow.
and like it tracked fine. It just didn't look like there was much depth to it. So it's like little things like that, but
You know, that's funny
other
you say
than that,
I love
I was
to-
fine.
I would love to rewatch it a second time and catch that, because I love Walter Simonson, who's a great Thor writer, and I'm curious if that's the other writer that Ryan like said that wrote over 100 issues. I wouldn't be surprised. But sometimes he'll do. Oh, really? Curious then.
Simonson, I think barely cracked 50.
What? I
But
thought his
well,
run
but
was-
his run is so lauded. There was a lot of fluff before him, and there was a lot of fluff after him. But
Oh.
Simonson, I mean, well, the thing is, Simonson wrote, drew, inked,
Yeah.
colored everything.
Yeah.
So like, I think he did about 48, 49 issues, but they're all bangers. So
Oh,
like,
okay. Well, it's funny. He'll do sketch covers of Jane, and it's very just like pasted helmet onto her face. So him saying that right now kind of reminded me of a Walter Simonson sketch I've seen a few times. If you look at some of his page, you'll notice, and it seems kind of like a paper mache mask, or not mache, just like a paper mask like put on it. That's what it reminded me
Okay.
of you saying that right now.
And then one thing I did notice too, I mean, it's a whole thing where I've said before, I feel like the people that are like ILM or something that are working on all this are probably like dying, because it's like, oh, turn this out. Also, you have these other movies. You have to keep like going back. And it's like, you have so much time to work on it. Then all of a sudden you're seeing the quality kind of drop with all this stuff. And it's like, you're not just working on potentially these movies, you're also working on these Disney Plus series. And there's also non-Marvel movies you're working on all at the same time. And it's so much shit. But also it's like one of those things I've realized, like Disney, it's not a Marvel thing. It's a Disney thing where I always feel like the budget now, it's like, you're a very rich company, but for some reason your budget doesn't seem like it matches up with that kind of thing anymore. But that goes with the whole, it doesn't matter if you try to even critique it, because the next thing's already here.
Yeah.
There's not enough time to really think about that anymore at this point. But someone tweeted like showing multiple Marvel movies with like, you have the character and then the background behind them, and it looks so fucking fake. And I'm like, that's not real. Someone altered that. And in the middle of watching Thor, I forget what scene it was, but I just see it just like for the first time in the movie, and I'm like, oh shit, this sucks.
Yeah.
So
I see it.
there's a YouTube channel I watched that talks about like why, well, one of the things they talk about is like why sometimes CG effects can look good and why sometimes they look bad. And a lot of times when it's like you're putting an actor into a completely digital environment, the reason why it doesn't look bad, or why it looks bad even when like technically all the textures and everything are good, like the geometry is good, just for some reason the characters don't look like they are actually there. And it's usually something as subtle as like the lighting not matching exactly what it should be on the physical people. So it's like
Mm,
you won't necessarily be able to in the moment rationalize why it doesn't look right, but just like your brain is so attuned to what you think reality should look like that even just like small things like that, like the lighting not matching up, can make you go like, why does that not look good?
yeah.
But like you just know like that could look better, which is
So-
easy to say from someone who's like, I have no knowledge on how to do this or how hard it is at all, but I know you could do better.
That's the thing too that I thought
That's,
was wrong
that's what
with
the
it.
entire internet is.
That's the thing. It's
I
like, I
can't
feel
do
so
it better, but I will rip you
Yeah.
apart for not doing
I'm
it.
no
good enough.
I know
scientist,
I
but
can't
I'm
do it
pretty
better,
sure.
but you could.
It's crazy with that inconsistency because I felt like all the recent, like, I thought the fucking CGI on Moon Knight was trash. Like, it just pulled me out of every
Certain
single
parts for
scene
sure.
in the
Yeah.
episode. It was just bad to me.
And they could have
And
done that suit in practical effects. They
fucking
could have
could've.
done
They
that.
That's,
could've.
I mean,
Yeah.
It would have been
we'll
great
talk about
too.
Miss Marvel too.
But well, I don't know if we want to segue to it real fast, but like Miss Marvel, I thought had really good practical effects, like in comparison to some of the movies and the previous shows that have come out recently. Like
At least her
hard
costume
light-
was physical.
yeah, her costume was physical, and the hard light looked fucking cool. I really enjoyed that whole everything they did with the hard light stuff. I thought looked like magical and different, and even Doctor Strange like esque in a sense, because Doctor Strange had pretty decent effects overall because there was so much of it. But yeah.
Yeah. I guess just real fast, because Ryan, how much more time would you? Is it pretty much time up now, or how are we looking?
Would it be okay like 10, 12 minutes?
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
fine.
enough to wrap up? I feel like this last point, we've really
Yeah.
like, at least we've hinted at it throughout already, but
Oh, the pinball Thor,
like
or-
the change in vibe and that kind of
yes.
stuff.
So, final thing here I want to talk about for Thor was what I called Thor pinball, which, when we get to Ragnarok, and this is after the other Thor shit that's happened in 1 and 2 and stuff, but he loses the hammer, he loses an eye, and there's a whole thing of like you feel the cost of what everything he's gone through, both like I guess emotionally and physically. And the whole thing, it's like, oh, you don't need the hammer for the lightning anymore, and the eye shows your progression as a person.
And you even
then-
have that scene in Infinity War where he like straight up spells out all the things that he's lost over the last few movies, and like, oh, it actually is affecting him. He's not all just happy-go-lucky Thor or whatever.
Yeah, and the fact that the whole thing is like you can lead our people now, and those are 3 primary things you see that feel like you're like, oh my god, this character feels like he's progressed more than a lot of the other characters. Like at least we've seen Iron Man with the whole
Are we maybe going to see Thor with the Thor Force?
Yeah, and it's we then get to Infinity War, and it's like, here's fake eye, here's big hammer, and also your people gone. And you're like, well, I guess we'll find out about the people later. Like we're just kind of wondering what's going on. But you get the fake fucking eye and Stormbreaker, and it's like Stormbreaker is really fucking cool. The scene where he arrives is phenomenal. But you get to Endgame, and we get Lebowski Thor, and it's just like I don't even care about my.
That
people.
is really interesting.
Fortnite.
They keep setting up stuff at the ends of each movie that doesn't pay off in the next one. Like
Exactly.
you just mentioned, like, oh, are we going to get to see King Thor without the hammer? And then the next movie, he's basically like, Valkyrie, you deal with being king. I'll build myself a new axe hammer and be even better. And then at the end of Endgame, we saw Thor get into the Milano, which I love that ship is called the Milano, and like with the Guardians, and we're like, oh shit, is he gonna be palling around with the Guardians for either the next Thor movie or the next Guardians movie? And the Guardians were like in 10 minutes
if you want
total
the
of
rest,
this
you have to
movie.
go to the DMV and Art fan fiction to find out what
Yeah.
happens in between the movies.
Do you ship Thor and Groot?
Never say that again. Never ever say that again. I don't want to hear that.
You know what? Strike 3 out.
Yeah, I'm done with you.
But Thor,
Ryan, you're the new co-host.
but Thor
of Super
took.
Science.
but
I
Thor
can't
took
afford. I
Groot.
can't afford the time.
But Thor knows how to speak Groot because he took it as an elective.
Oh, I love that little
That was
like
so-
nugget.
But-
He can speak Groot.
What do
I
you-
do wish we could have seen more Guardian adventures. I think that was just a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Unless they go back and retroactive some stuff, but I think it's a little too late for that. I don't know if Chris
Yeah.
Hemsworth would do a
It-
6
like,
issue or 6.
It's weird because it
issue.
seems like he was with them for a while, because like literally even Star-Lord is like, I love this part, and he like mouths out the like, this
Right.
is here and now, like he's a fan of Thor at this point.
Yeah, like they've.
But he's
gone
also
on a
tired of
lot.
Thor. They're like, yeah, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
you
Dude,
see their
I-
faces.
I don't know if this is actually the funniest thing that Thor did in the entire movie, but I laughed so hard when he gets on Stormbreaker like it's a broom.
Yes, yeah. they just-
Okay, that I
yeah.
forgot
So
to talk
great.
about that part. That was one
Oh,
of I
man,
think
like
that
he's a
is
witch.
that is the second funniest thing I've ever seen in a Marvel movie. The first being Get Help. This was the second funniest
Yeah.
thing. Because Get Help is still the fucking best.
He's like,
It's
I'm not doing Get Help, and then the
Get Help. Just like,
I just love that, like as brothers, they still have a bit like from like when they were kids.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Oh, and then like the scene where like Thor gets his like costume like flicked off by Zeus,
oh,
and he's got that big ass back
Flick
tattoo.
too
It's like,
hard, damn it.
it's like Loki forever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was great.
the
I do love
tattoos
it.
are awesome.
All the
Yeah.
women faint, and like even Valkyrie's like, no, I know where I swing,
Like,
but I like
who
this
are-
too."
I just love the thing. He's like, "Who are your friends? I'll flick their clothes off to, or their costumes off."
No,
to you."
No,
They're
no,
like,
no, 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 no.
You just hear some sighs in the theater like, oh, almost time. Fuck.
Dude, that,
Yeah, that's the thing.
that is all Mel Brooks, dude. That is 100%.
Yeah, that was very Mel
like,
Brooks, yeah.
And I just
And then even like the touch of like Thor getting his robes put back on, and all the women at the podium were like,
yeah,
Man.
all
Yeah.
that- yes, yeah, dude. Like,
But yeah, so
Also,
yeah, how
There's
did
gonna
everyone-
be some like younger like person that's gonna be like, "Who the fuck is Mel Brooks?"
I know, yeah.
So
seriously,
sad.
that-
I wish I could find that.
I mean,
person
that
and be
was
like,
everyone during Stranger
Let me
Things.
show
Who's
you the
Kate
way
Bush?
of Spaceballs.
dude,
Anyway, Mel
everyone
Brooks,
just-
great stuff.
everyone's discovering Mel Brooks and Kate Bush and Metallica for the first time in their lives.
Oh,
now.
yeah.
It's so sad.
And we are happy that we got you there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
But what do you guys think about what I was saying though about the kind of like that weird progression that occurs? I don't know if there was like, I mean, I know like maybe some of that can like sum up into like the midlife crisis portion, but I just wanted to know your opinions
You
on
know,
that.
a big part of it is that like Marvel didn't really know the direction to go with Thor. Like how to make, again, it's kind of that Venom syndrome, or like how do we make this character really interesting for the mass audiences? You know, you have the people that'll be into it because Thor is like a Norwegian god type of thing, and you know he has a pretty interesting backstory. But like a lot of Thor comics haven't been too enticing for the mass audiences until like I want to say like Jason Aaron stuff, a lot of the popular stuff, and to where it really Ryan's gonna glare at me right now. Until
It's the first time I actually want to read Thor, to be honest.
yeah, it's like the first time you're really genuinely interested because they found a way to craft him just right. And I think the first Thor was good because it's a solid, you know, Kirby Stan foundation. And then it sounds like Thor 2 was just kind of like a mess. And they're like, all right, we got to figure out this Thor thing because we need him. Like he's a prominent character. He's a great character. And how do we show this to the audiences? How do we present this character for people to really enjoy him? And Taika's approach to it in this medium seems to really have hit things off. And a lot of people don't like it. But like, if it's the same thing, it's just like when you trash. I mean, people I'm sure trash on Jason Aaron's run and Donny Cates like run on Venom and shit. Like,
all he
you
did was
know
make
what?
Voldemort the villain.
Yeah, like it's like one of those things where they just had to find the right recipe, and it just took a few attempts. And you know what? They have the money to fucking do it, so they did it. It's a kind of a back and forth, but also you think about it too. Thor is supposed to be like thousands of years old, so his ability to shift from like one personality type to another shouldn't be surprising because he's lived for so long. He's got to like kind of slowly figure stuff out, and it's kind of a humanistic thing to be like, I was this person 5 years ago, and since 2 years ago I was like this person, but since 6 months ago I'm now this person. You know, so it's kind of one of those things. He's gone through more life events than, like they've said it many times, more than almost any other character in the MCU. He's had more shit happen to him than almost anyone in a sense.
Well,
And
it's
so-
also, to go on with that, it's interesting that like over time he's kind of become closer to be like the replacement for Odin, because like that is kind of how his life story should go, is like his father eventually dies, because Norse gods apparently are fairly human, it seems, in their stories. And like, yeah, they've kind of been replacing Odin with Thor, and like he even has like his Thor force, and like there was a period of time where he was like literally unable to pick up Mjolnir because I think it was because Gore basically convinced him that like he as a god is not worthy of like that power or something like that. I could be wrong on why he couldn't pick up the hammer.
Real quickly, we'll just put this one to bed. So in an event called Original Sin, all the Avengers go figure out who killed the Watcher, and Nick Fury gains the powers of being a Watcher, and he tries. Yeah, it's really crazy. And in order to defeat Thor, he doesn't fight him. He just whispers in his ear, "Gore was right," inferring that gods are not worthy. And then that is where Thor begins to believe that he believes he's not worthy, so he becomes unworthy. So he believes the lie, and then basically from that point on in Jason Aaron's run, he's undoing all of the the self-doubt and the misbelief that he could be worthy. Jason undoes that, and a lot of that is done with the juxtaposition of Jane believing in herself more than Odinson believes in himself. So yeah.
And then he gets the axe, right? It's not even Stormbreaker.
That's when, Yarnbjorn is the axe in Thor comics.
Because Stormbreaker is Beta Ray Bill, right?
Yeah, Stormbreaker is Beta Ray Bill's hammer, and it looks nothing like it does in the movies. It's way wackier and way cheesier in the comics. It was just Stormbreaker in the movies is way cooler. But Yarnbjorn is the axe that young Thor has. Before Thor becomes worthy to wield Mjolnir, Yarnbjorn is the axe that he has, and it's a freaking cool weapon. And that's the weapon he picks back up when he becomes unworthy to lift Mjolnir. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Gotcha.
Dope. Interesting. Ryan, did you think it was like that whole, I guess, the change up there and stuff? Did you?
Yeah. So here's how I've kind of like decided to break down how Thor is represented in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the first Thor movie, first Avengers movie, Dark World, and Age of Ultron, we get to see the building of Thor. We see his rise. We see him rising up as a character, as an Avenger, as a hero. And then once Ragnarok hits, what happens is we start to slowly deconstruct him. We start to slowly tear apart this god superhero. And we, like Brandon said, he loses everything, literally everything. And until we got Love and Thunder, like he had lost Jane, he had lost Mjolnir, he had lost his parents. I mean, Freya gets stabbed and murdered, as Thor's trying to defend Asgard. Odin, he does the Force Ghost thing. Yeah, that was so great. Sam Neill as Odin is so fantastic. But then like he loses Loki multiple times. He loses all of Asgard. So then in Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame, he loses everything. Even though they win in the end, and they defeat Thanos. But like, trauma doesn't go away that easily.
Yeah,
like, and that's what that's a small critique of other people's critiques that I just like to throw in here, is that we all want character development, but we all want it to happen really quickly. We don't want to earn it. What's crazy about that is like, we want characters that actually feel real. I'm like, okay, how are you going to make 1,000-year-old god feel real? He has to develop at the rate that a god would develop. Like, it's going to take longer. Like, it's going to take longer for him to learn a lesson than it would, say, Peter Parker. It's going to be different. And I think that the first 4 appearances of him in the MCU, you see him get built up. In the last 4 appearances he's had, you see him get torn down. And now we're just now turning the corner to see where he's going to get built up again. Yeah. So I think you're right to an extent. Like, there has been this pinball effect with him because he's going through so much. I mean, the guy could have killed Thanos. He could have ended all of this, and he didn't. Like, how much like survivor's guilt do you have in that moment where you're like, I could have ended all this? Like, that's where he's at the beginning of Endgame. He's like, we could have avoided all of this if I would have just done it better, if I would have just been better. and he's the god that probably takes more on his shoulders than, you know, any other member of the Avengers, maybe besides Tony.
Okay.
That's such a brilliant breakdown of him. Like, hands down.
Well, thank you. I assume that's why I was here. So
No.
but come on, I really like that, the Thor pinball thing, because yeah, it definitely feels like that at times. It's like, when are we gonna right the ship, and when are we gonna develop? And it's like, oh right, we're kind of developing in these chunky moments through the storytelling.
Yeah.
Because even when he's making progress forward, Thor's development kind of feels like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, where he makes a stride, but then he gets punched down again, but he
Very
keeps
much so.
getting back up. And I think that's really the Thor story, is that he keeps getting back up because really he's the god. He's the one that has to get back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the one that can carry all this weight. But yeah, I think that's a really good observation.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. I really appreciated that synopsis there, just because like I was trying to, I guess, more of like just decipher it and try to understand it and stuff. I think at least still the strongest portions were within Waititi's stuff. I don't know if he had any contribution that much to the Avengers movies with like the Thor portions of like, was it him that did Lebowski Thor? Was that Russo brothers, that kind of thing and whatnot?
That's
I mean, it's probably the Russo brothers. I
Yeah,
mean,
it probably is
they
them.
had the and you know, whoever was doing the screenwriting, and wherever Feige saw kind of the long-term goal for the character at the end of the Infinity Saga, where they wanted to get that character to, because he's one of the characters that actually survives all of Endgame.
yeah, true.
It's true. Yeah.
I could literally talk about this character all day. Maybe I should start a podcast about him.
Mm,
It probably doesn't have the legs, you know.
nah, it won't work, man. Don't bother. Don't try it.
The flooded market.
Yeah, you should instead do a podcast on Daredevil. Maybe you should do that.
Yeah, I
heard
mean,
that's
I
more-
haven't seen like a dozen of those, so
Oh, I can imagine how many Daredevil podcasts there are. Geez.
I really can't, like, I gotta put myself into the like seat of the listener, like someone being like, are they being serious? Like, because I feel like the Thor guy has been serious many times during this episode.
Yeah. But I think we have reached our limit, just because we are actually closing on 2 hours. We will probably, Brandon, if you're okay with this, we'll probably shelve the Miss Marvel for another episode. So we'll wait for that. But we will.
I can sum up all my Miss Marvel thoughts in like 2 minutes.
Oh, for me, that's the show where I'm like, oh, I have so much to say because of everything.
You're a character in it. That's
yeah,
why.
it's literally this is the character I've been waiting for. So I'm like, oh, finally, Jesus.
I will say Miss Marvel and WandaVision are my 2 favorite MCU shows. I enjoyed Miss Marvel more than I ever thought I would. It's a great show. I thought there was, I mean, of course it has its weak points, but I mean, I thought it was really good. And I really fucking enjoyed it. So there's that.
Cool.
And I hate Captain Marvel because I hate homegirl that plays Carol Danvers.
Oh, Brie Larson.
Fuck Brie Larson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But this
so, Ryan, where can people find you?
That's a good one. Yeah, so people can find me on Instagram. The show's account is at Mighty Thor Podcast. That's where I put all the announcements for the show and what's coming up. We release our regular episodes every Monday, so you can find us on iTunes and Spotify. We've got a lot of great stuff coming up. We're continuing our Jason Aaron retrospective. We are marching closer and closer to the big event that Jason Aaron did called War of the Realms. So that is coming up soon, and we're going to be doing a little bit more MCU stuff. So we're trying to just make sure that people that went out and saw the movie, they have a place to kind of digest all the Thor content, all the thoughts, and we're trying to give answers to their burning questions. So go look for us across the Bifrost Mighty Thor Podcast every Monday. And I would love for people to come check it out. it's been a lot of fun to put together, and occasionally we have Brandon Blocksdorf on. So you know, if that's a plus or a minus, please don't hold it against us, or you know. But it's the most fun show that I've been a part of. I really love getting to talk with my friends about Thor. So yeah.
Awesome, man. And Brandon, where can people find you?
Check out Apollo City Comics on all podcast platforms, and on YouTube we also have video on there, as does Sutro Side Watch. As Sutro Side Talk, my bad. I also do Sutro Side Watch with Kamran. And then also check out Apollo City Comics every Thursday on YouTube, where we do a live drink and draw, where we don't really drink, but we just kind of hang out and draw some cool stuff. Me and Danny, we have some guests on, and we kind of choose a new thing every time.
It just feels like they drink.
It feels like we drink because it's
They feel intoxicated.
Yeah. But I
did Beta Ray Bill recently.
Did Beta Ray Bill. We did Lovecraft a monster recently, which was a lot of fun. And then we'll find out what this Thursday upcoming week has for us. And then, you know, Ryan is always on the show with us every time he does get a chance. We need to get him back on for some cool stuff. But man, we are everywhere. So hit us up.
And of course, you can find us here, Sutro Sidetalk, on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Subscribe, whatever you're listening to. If it's Apple Podcast, give us that 5-star review. Spotify, please rate us. And if it's YouTube, give us a like as well as subscribing. You could also follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And yes, things are actually on TikTok now, because I have finally started making clips for TikTok, starting off with our January 2021 in review episode. We are going to have probably 3 to 4 clips per episode, everything from 30 seconds to a minute long. But we're finally there, and I'm going to keep churning that shit out. And eventually, once it's all caught up, we'll start expanding. Sutro Side Watch is also now going to be on YouTube, starting with our next episode, License to Kill. So we're going to do that, and then eventually retroactively we'll put in some older episodes that I still have video footage for on there too. Next week, another big anime episode. We're going to be talking Spy X Family and both seasons of Komi Can't Communicate, and the best part is too, we're going to have Momo on for that one again. She'll be with us, plus another friend of mine who has not been here yet, so that'll be a fun time. I'll just say his name is Chris, and he is very energetic about anime, so that's gonna be a good time. I think we'll do Miss Marvel in 2 weeks, and then after that we'll do another bundle of animated Disney films, because I think Lightyear will be on Disney Plus, and I can finally watch it because I missed it in theaters. So that's what's on the horizon for us. Just so much fucking Disney. God damn.
You can't get away from it, man.
Yeah. We'll get back to games soon too, though. I gotta talk about Cycle of the Frontier, so that's gonna be a good time. Or is it the Cycle Frontier? Whatever.
Disney opens up a porn site, we're all fucked. Like,
we're all. You love your Disney princesses. We'll see them now in raw 3D in HD.
Oh my god.
Oh god, that sounds horrible.
Disney Plus X subscription, like.
Look out, she's getting gored. 2 Thors, 1 gore is finally happening, guys.
Oh my gosh.
What's really going on? Oh man, this is what the fans wanted, right?
Oh, yeah, that's what we should end on.
Yeah, that's what we'll call the episode. 2 Thors, 1 gore. I'm not actually doing that. I need to actually put the real title so we get more clicks, but you know. All right, everybody, thank you for listening. We will catch you guys next week. So long.
Thanks for listening.